How you doing, everybody? Welcome back to Northwest Prop Shaft's YouTube channel. And today we're going to go and have a look at a Scania prop shaft, a Scania Tractor Unit. So let's go and have a look. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you're having a nice summer holidays, nice summer. The weather's got a little bit better around here now, so some nice days. Although I've had a nice new fresh haircut because I'm off on holiday this week. So today, Scania, we've got a Scania prop coming. So I'll just flip this around so you can see it. So here we are, Scania P500 prop shaft. This is off an R series tractor unit. Quite a common prop shaft for us, this. We see quite a lot of these purely because it's a single prop shaft unit on the vehicle, and we have a lot of issues with them twisting, bending and snapping. So Scania make their prop shafts a little bit different than everybody else. They don't have flanges on the end. See, it's just a complete open universal joint that goes into a special coupling. But also what's different about Scania, which most other major truck manufacturers and truck prop shafts have, is this. This is a friction weld. So it's very similar to what you get on plastic pipe friction welding. So instead of being MIG welded, which actually this end has been replaced before by the looks of it, this has got a MIG weld here. So instead of it being MIG weld, it's friction welded. So all Scania prop shafts are friction welded, and it makes them slightly different. It does make them susceptible to failing to some degree as well. But we'll have a look at this in a second. So this prop shaft has come in because it's failed. The sliding section on it's failed. Customer didn't want to wait, couldn't give us a couple of hours. So fortunately we keep one of these on shelf, so it went straight out. But he's left this with us so we can show you what's actually failed about it. So I'll start with that now. So here it is in the vise. The universal joints obviously aren't here. He's lost the caps. He's taken the caps off around them. Same with that end. So it's going to have two universal joints anyway, because you can't buy the caps separately. For these universal joints, you tend to get them in a kit. So a universal joint comes with a cross and 4 caps. So unfortunately, it's going to need 2 new universal joints anyway. This seems to be the problem, the sliding section. Now I should be able to grab hold of this, and a big lad like me should be able to slide it backwards and forwards by hand. So that's not going anywhere. So we've got something awry there. So we'll just check. Copper hammer. Got a few of these knocking around the workshop. We'll just see if it moves. We'll just pop a hand on here. We've got gloves on. We'll just see if we can feel any movement. Nope, that's solid. Absolutely not going anywhere. Even with a big, decent copper hammer. So as the vehicle's driving along, that can't slide in and out. As the vehicle bounces on its axle, the prop shaft changes length. It goes up and down and changes length. So this isn't able to do that. So it's pulling backwards and forwards on the universal joint, which has probably caused the universal joints to fail, which there is wear on the universal joints. We can see that. And also causes a massive vibration through the vehicle. So sliding sections failed, universal joints has failed. So the customer took one of these. He's done and dusted, he's gone. This we've kept hold just so that we can show you. But we need to rebuild one now to go back on our shelf, because we do keep these on shelf because they are quite popular for failing. So let's just have a look at see if it's possibly twisted. So it could be, this is a plastic coating on this spline. Could be the plastic coat's failed on the inside. Can't get it apart, so we can't see that. But we can just have a look to see if there's a bit of an angle problem. So just out of ease, we can just look down the line of the prop shaft. So these flats on top here and these flats over here, the opposite side, they should line up. They should be perfectly flat. That's the right orientation. And even looking down this prop shaft, I can tell by eye that there's something not quite right there. It's not quite there. So there could be a chance that these splines inside here that mesh together have twisted slightly, and that's why it's not going backwards and forwards. That's why it's not going anywhere. So this is not quite condemned for scrap. We can cut this section out here, clean it all up, put a new sliding section in it, put 2 new universal joints in it, and then it can be sat on shelf as a recon unit. So we try not to throw it all away, try and recon as much as we possibly can. So, but customer did take a complete new one for this because he was super urgent and in a hurry. Time was costing this gentleman, so we need to make a new one. So we'll just have a look at the parts for making a new one while we're in here. Okay, let's go into the stores. I've got some gear already set up for this, so let's just have a quick look. So these are the parts that make up the Scania sliding shaft. 2 universal joints, tube yoke, slip section, and a big lump of tube. So, as I was mentioning before about the sliding section being able to move, so we'll just pop this in a vise. Nice and tight. So you see, I can move it in and out. Good in and out action. So inside this sliding section, take that out of there, we've got the male spline there, and we've got this here. Now this is a Rilson coating. It's like a Teflon coating that you can coat steel parts with. It helps prolong the lifespan. Also aids in the fact that you don't need as much grease pouring in there every week. You don't need to grease it as much because this creates a smooth surface that doesn't rust, so it keeps it moving quite nice. So it's like a Rilson Teflon coating. Different companies call it different things, but we use the word Rilson quite a lot. So these components will go into the workshop. Put this back together. Nice and slide. In we go. These components go into the workshop to be assembled. So it makes sliding section, universal joint, tube yoke and universal joint. So that's what's involved in one of those Scanias. Now we'll just have a quick look at this universal joint because it is a little bit different than normal universal joints. As I said, it doesn't have a flange on it. So I'll just show you a few things on this that people get a little bit wrong. So we'll send this into the workshop. This can be fabricated up to make a new prop shaft, and we'll show you the finished article shortly. So this isn't actually P500, the same series that you've just seen now. This is P300, but it's exactly the same, just a smaller version. Dimensionally just smaller, just easy for me to pick up and move around because they're a bit lighter. So the universal joint doesn't have a flange in it. The end of the prop shaft doesn't have a flange in it. It has these little wings. These little wings fit in the end yoke. So this is actually has a centre bearing on, so this offers centre bearing shaft. But on the actual Scania truck itself, this is exactly what comes out of the diff and out of the gearbox. So it's these 4 flat points with 2 holding lugs on either side. So the universal joint sits in nice and square like this. Does take a little bit of persuading to get it in there. I'll not put it in there yet. But what we do see with these universal joints from fitters quite a lot, people that haven't done them a lot or seen them before, is I'll just turn this around. You see how the cap's shaped, slightly deeper on this side. These wings are actually tapered, so they're at an angle. I think it's 4.5 degrees if I remember rightly. So these sit down inside this taper and lock nice and hard. Now sometimes, like if I just put that in there, then it doesn't quite go in, won't fit properly. You have to use a persuasion device to get it in. Persuasion device. But what does happen is if you accidentally spin these caps round by chance, oh, look at that. That doesn't fit too bad. It will fit in the wrong way around. So you could have, by chance, have one cap the right way, one cap the wrong way, and it will fit in. We see this quite a lot, and because you see, it's still easy to bolt it up. So they bolt these wings on the wrong way. So it will go in that way, but then there's nothing to hold the universal joint in place. this little nipple here should be holding onto the edge of the universal joint to stop it from popping out that way. That doesn't happen, so it ends up ripping off. So when it's the right way around, the universal joint's held in, so it can't go anywhere. So this, in effect, is just like a strap, which we used to see on the old ERF Fordens, old MANs, in fact, said Atkins, they all had them, and the Americans still do. So you still see that on Mack trucks and things like that. The American trucks, they use a strap kit, a strap and bolt kit over the top of it. So you've got to be very careful when you're fitting these universal joints that they do go the right way. So as you're putting it in, you might think, oh, it's not going in. There we go, nice and flat. Now it's gone in. It's tight up against its locations. The universal joint's being held in here by the nipple. Same on this side by the locating nipple, and that's not going anywhere now. Yes, you still have to bolt it down, so you've still got 4 bolts that go through here to bolt it down, but that universal joint isn't popping out of the side now. So you have to be very careful when you're fitting these, that you make sure you fit it in correctly. And it does take a bit of persuasion with a hammer. Sometimes these the outside here it's actually a separate part, and during transit that can quite easily move, so it could quite easily slip. That's not going to come out of there now, so let's just run and get another one. Take a fresh one out of the bag. All of our universal joints come in bags now. We try not to get them boxed. Don't see the point in having too much waste when we're going to use them in the workshop. We don't sell them out like this. We use them in the workshop. So this outside actually comes away from this cap. So the cap just looks exactly like that. So sometimes this can be pressed up or down. It can actually move. So in transit, all of a sudden this bracket on the outside doesn't quite sit right with the universal joint. So it might be slightly off. So as you see, you've got the 4 holes, it's nice and square. It might sit slightly further in. If it does sit slightly further in, just take the universal joint out and press on the outside and put it back square. But it can happen in travel. It doesn't happen a lot. It can happen in manufacture as well. But just be wary of that. So if it's not perfectly lined up, just tap them back in line and get them to line up, and then bolt and off you go. This is called an end yoke, this piece here. Gearbox yoke, diff yoke. Scania are actually the same. So the Scania diff yoke, Scania gearbox yoke, and the centre bearing yoke, most of them are actually the same part. Although Scania list them as several different part numbers, they are actually the same on a lot of the vehicles. So we'll run back into the workshop. The prop shaft's been fabricated now, so we'll show you what the finished article looks like. So I missed the fabrication of that one, purely because, lo and behold, just as we were putting that through, another customer walked in and said, we're desperate for one, can we have one now? So instead of filming it, I just let the lads rattle on. So there is an NWP 713 ready to go straight out to the customer, who is sat outside waiting. And this is the other one that we've just made, 713, ready to go on shelf. So Scania Tractor Unit prop shafts, sat on shelf, ready, waiting to go. As you can see, all nicely painted, and we use the MIG welding rather than the friction welding. Friction welding is really good. If you ever get a chance to have a look at it, go on YouTube. I'm sure you'll find some good videos on it. I think there is a few videos on friction welding. It is a really good process, especially on drive shaft bars and things like that. It makes them super strong. It's a really good way of welding, but it is susceptible. I spoke about Scania prop shafts being susceptible to failure. So I'm just going to pop a picture up of one that came into our Salford branch a few weeks ago that did fail, purely because they've got so much, these new trucks are so good, they've got so much torque running through them that get them in a sticky situation and they are going to ruin prop shafts. But you want the prop shaft to ruin. You know, you don't want a gearbox to fail, you don't want a diff to fail, you'd rather the prop shaft fail. It's a bit of a fuse in the system, but I'll put this picture up here now, and you can see how that's twisted all the way around. So driver lost drive, twisted the tube completely, and then it did end up actually snapping at the other end, but we just cut that piece out just so that we could show customers when they come in what it actually looks like. So that's all about the Scania R Series P500 sliding shaft. As well as sliding shafts, they do have centre bearing shafts. But if you've got any questions, please let us know. I'm actually going on holiday now for a couple of weeks, but there is a video coming next week again, which we've already filmed on Alfa Romeos. So hope you tune in, and please like and subscribe and ring that bell. Thank you very much. See you next week.